All right, folks, subscribe. Just do it. Just go there and subscribe right now. We're growing. We want you on board. We want everyone to know exactly when the show comes up, and then you'll have it right when you do that. You don't have to search for it at all. Just subscribe. Helps us out. We are here, and we're going to be here for the duration. First, the LA Times, then the Washington Post, and now USA Today. What's happening here? Let's get right into it. First, the Los Angeles Times abstains from endorsing a candidate for president, which, of course, as we know, is a generally left-leaning newspaper, and thusly, that was widely considered to be a slap in the face to the Harris-Walz campaign. Confusion ensues, but this was the absolute kicker. Days later, the Washington Post, of all publications, opts also to not endorse a candidate for president. The first time since the 1980s, 40 years or so. Cue the news outlet Armageddon, cue the calamity, cue the absolute uproar, because here's the thing. The Washington Post has always endorsed the Democrat candidate for president. Bill Clinton, Al Gore, John Kerry, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, real winners, by the way. The swampiest of the deep swamp statespersons, did that woke and all, have all been backed by the Washington Post, every one of them. By the way, making it quite clear that they're going to vote blue no matter who, because Al Gore, John Kerry, really? Hillary Clinton, really? After Benghazi, after wiping her servers clean, smashing her BlackBerries, all 13 of them? So naturally, everyone is jumping on this part of the story. Kamala Harris is that bad. A publication that has endorsed every single Democrat, a Democrat for the Oval Office every time in almost 4 decades. Surely this is the ultimate diss. This is how terrible Kamala Harris is. And that no one wants anything to do with her, certainly not in black and white, in perpetuity, not even the liberalist of newspapers. Hold on right there for a second. Think about this. I said it the other day. Here's what's happening. Now that CNN and NBC went hard on Kamala those last few interviews, I think they're all starting to realize she doesn't have it. They don't want their fingerprints on an endorsement. They don't want their fingerprints on, oh, you gave her an easy softball interview right before she became president and it's failing miserably. Well, yes, that part is probably true. And yes, that may be a part of the story. But here's what's happening and what's really happening, my dear friends. This is what we in the financial markets call a correction. The stock market is going up. It's going up. It corrects a little bit. It's not a crash. It's not a bear market. It's a correction. We're witnessing a growing revolution. It's a bid to try in any way, shape, or form to save what's left of the legacy media, which is very, very little, very thin. I mean, the trust in legacy media is gone. That's President Donald Trump, who in one way or another had a hand in exposing that media, that mainstream media, for what they've become. And folks, you can include Fox and Newsmax in that, by the way. Go ahead. I said it. I did. I said it. They've become part of the corporate media, the propaganda media. They just bow to different gods. That's all. Advertisers, etc. The Washington Post was once one of the most reputable news outlets in the world. For those who love to pore over the news, read real investigative journalism from reputable journalists with heart and grit and with a passion for the freedom of the press. Every aspect of the First Amendment was protected there at the Washington Post back days. These publications were once the aspiration, the beacon for so many journalists. You worked at a local paper until you could work your way up to the ultimate, like the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, the Economist, or the Washington Post. The elite, the home of Woodward and Bernstein, home of uncovering Watergate. I think we can call, and we can all agree, however, that these outlets don't hold the same water they once did, pardon the pun. So suddenly, more than 200,000 people, liberals, have canceled their digital subscriptions to the Washington Post, and that number is growing. So here's my point. These are more likely liberal-leaning readers, many of whom fall squarely in the Trump derangement syndrome bracket, but also those hundreds of thousands of people clearly have 0.0 interest in actual journalism, in real storytelling. There's no truth left. We do it here. We call them truth bombs. We protect truth, integrity, honesty, transparency. We protect it all right here. You got to come here for it. But we know the liberal-leaning audience, they want to hear and read what they want to hear and read. Like Stephen King, who lost his mind years ago, like many of the characters he writes so blatantly about. And by the way, that's probably why he took to X, Twitter, former Twitter, to say this: after 5 years, I've canceled my subscription to the Washington Post. By the way, these same clowns are the same clowns who promised to leave America in 2016 when Donald Trump beat Hillary senseless. And guess what? They didn't actually do it. And you know why? Because America, this great country, is the greatest country in the world, no matter what. And they know it. And these are the same people who threatened to leave Twitter, now X, after Elon Musk took over. And guess what? All of them, of those supposed I'm leaving Twitter lib idiots, took to Twitter and now X to post the fact that they're dropping their Washington Post subscription. See what we're doing here? You really can't even make this stuff up. It's real. Is there anything more ridiculous than a bleeding heart liberal these days at all? Anything? Oh, that's not all. Washington Post news staff, well, they're pissed. They're threatening a walkout, even putting out a rebellious op-ed piece titled, "The newspaper's refusal to endorse a presidential candidate is a mistake." They say, quote, "This is a moment for the institution to be making clear its commitment to democratic values." See, hold on right there. Just stop right there. This newspaper is supposed to be, in fact, it's in the freaking Constitution. We protect the media and the First Amendment to the Constitution. We don't protect the Democrat media. We protect the media. It's supposed to be unbiased. It's supposed to hold truth to power on both sides. But these clowns at the Washington Post say the clear commitment needs to be to Democrat values, the rule of law, and international alliances, and the threat that Donald Trump poses. Well, there it is. So they have received the leftist machine marching orders, willing soldiers of the Trump derangement syndrome TDS army. You guys need to be rescued. Blink twice if you need rescuing. One or two conservative journalists over there. So what happens next? Jeff Bezos responds, and it's everything we've been thinking for a very long time. An editorial with a headline that reads, "The hard truth, Americans don't trust the news media." See who it was written by? Written by Jeff Bezos. Harsh truth, but here's more truth. And he writes, and I'm quoting Jeff Bezos, by the way, folks, "Most people believe the media is biased. Anyone who doesn't see this is paying scant attention to reality. And those who fight reality lose." And he goes on to say about presidential endorsements, and I'm quoting, "What presidential endorsements actually do is create a perception of bias." Of course they do. You're picking a candidate of two candidates. A perception of non-independence. Ending them is a principled decision, and it's the right one. Says second richest man in the world, maybe the first, who knows, third, says billion upon billionaire Jeff Bezos, who owns the Washington Post. He says, don't be biased. I own the paper. I just want it to be a good newspaper again. You know, it sends liberals into full-fledged breakdown panic. That kind of truth. Brutal, realistic honesty. That's mayhem for the left. Oh, and elsewhere in the leftist media universe, the gloves are off, I guess, baby. The Atlantic ain't having it. Because if the Atlantic has proven anything, it's that actual journalism is far, far from what they're even remotely interested in. Remember, Trump is Hitler, Stalin, and Mussolini all rolled up in one. Really? Trump wishes he were Hitler, says a disgruntled former House employee. So John Kelly, former general, says Trump said he wishes he were Hitler. Atlantic picks it up as proof. That's their journalism. Trump says he never said it. I don't know, who do you believe? I don't think he said that. I doubt he said that. So that Atlantic says, don't give up your Washington Post subscriptions. The Atlantic, their competitors, make Bezos pay for trying to save the drowning world of journalism. Hit him where it hurts. Don't cancel Washington. Cancel Amazon Prime. That's right. Cancel your Amazon Prime membership. That'll show Jeff. Guys, Jeff Bezos' net worth is over $200 billion. That won't put a dent in a darn thing. That's it. That's not even, I don't know, paper from a newspaper. It's like a fly in a horse's ass. Quick digression, though. Is there anything more delicious than a leftist meltdown that's happening so often these days at the hands of Trump? I can't even keep up. There's not enough popcorn in the world to sustain the constant flow of entertainment that freaked out liberals offer us. Moral of the story is that if you're unsubscribing from the Washington Post because they won't endorse a presidential candidate, Democrat, you're admitting that you only like them because they were clearly partisan. So here's why this all apparently went down. Jeff Bezos, Amazon executive chairman and owner of the Washington Post, actually decided to end the practice of endorsing presidential candidates. Frankly, I'm surprised it took this long. Why? Why is a journalistic organization endorsing political candidates? Can you imagine if Fox News can endorse Trump? Can you imagine? They go freaking crazy. Isn't the entire point of journalism, truth-telling, to be just that, telling the truth, delivering the news without a skew, without a bias, without a political bend? It's certainly in the Constitution for that reason. Serious question. At what point does the legacy media even think about redeeming itself? Seems to me that Jeff Bezos, in refusing to let his paper endorse Kamala Harris, is forcing those partisan so-called journalist hacks to leave the paper. He actually told them to go. You don't like it? Go. Walk. He goes, go. Just the way Ronald Reagan did when the air traffic controllers threatened to strike. He goes, go. Go. In fact, don't even leave. You're fired. He said, resign on your own volition, and therefore, going forward, you're not going to get your severance. So you can be replaced with actual journalists. 1/3 of Washington Post editorial board has stepped down. This is real turnover we're talking about here. Rebuilding credibility. I think that's what it's called. And there are reports that Jeff Bezos doubled down, adding that it's time to bring balance, bring in more conservative journalists to write their opinion pieces. Hold on. I don't know. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say Elon Musk buying X, turning it into, let's just say, far right-leaning and right-leaning social media. Bezos says, I want to tap into that too. We need more right-leaning. Think about that. On the left, on television, you have MSNBC, CNN, ABC, NBC, CBS, and who knows countless others. On the right, you have Fox News. I mean, Newsmax doesn't even make a dent. So they're all splitting half the pie. Fox is splitting half the pie with themselves only. It's the same thing in the print media. Every freaking print media, every freaking newspaper in this country, most of them lean left. Some far left, some hard left. New York Times, Washington Post, it goes on out. LA Times, Boston Globe, on and on. They're all lefties. So maybe Bezos is saying, you know what? I'll be the guy who comes in and does what Elon Musk did. I'll make the Washington Post fair and balanced, see what happens. It was the Washington Post itself that published that piece without a hint of irony, by the way. This one. Trump's swing state support depends on people who don't trust the media. The former president's effort to exist in a truth-indifferent bubble has paid off. Oh, and all that means is that there are voters out there that believe the truth now rather than just blindly believing the likes of the Washington Post, ABC, NBC, CBS, New York Times. Media freaking matters. Do they understand that fact? I don't think they do. So they flip it on its head, saying that there's a Trump-created truth-indifferent bubble. Truth-indifferent Washington Post bubble? Like forcibly peddling the Russia collusion narrative? Truth-indifferent, like hiding the Hunter Biden laptop story before a presidential election, engaging in full-fledged election interference, while endorsing the very candidate that story would have done political damage to. And he admitted himself, Joe Biden did. Truth indifferent. Like when Washington Post lied about the Georgia phone call between President Trump and the Georgia Secretary of State. Remember, they had to retract their lies. Truth indifferent. Like when the Washington Post peddled terrorist organization Hamas propaganda, saying that Israel was responsible for the bombing of a hospital, which was in fact bombed out by Palestinian terrorists. Remember that? Oh, and this one might be a little tasty. Back on October 24th of 2016, when a headline read, Donald Trump's chances of winning are approaching zero. By the way, circle that name, Chris Cillizza. That guy hasn't been seen since, has he? He was all the rage on CNN and Washington Post. Hadn't been seen since. Now, let's not throw stones in glass houses, right, Washington Post, because this whole legacy media, it's a dying breed that desperately needs saving, if it can be saved at all. Americans are getting their news, their information, our conversations more and more from alternative sources. Joe Rogan on podcasts, Tucker Carlson on X and his podcast, independent journalists like this one right here, on the ground, telling the truth, showing the truth. Truth is what Americans are after now. And now, after the Los Angeles Times, the Washington Post, both opted not to endorse a presidential candidate, Democrat, USA Today announced they'll follow suit. So we are witnessing a so-called correction in the print media, at least print media. This is a revolution, only time will tell. But we know this much. The time of the legacy media's hold on our collective attention, the time of their grip on our trust and faith in them to tell Americans like it is, that time is long gone, folks. Elon Musk bought Twitter and started the revolution. The revolution against the bias of the legacy media. I talked about this last week. There's a war on Musk now and his playground for freedom of speech. Well, that just doesn't work for the leftist machine. So in response, Jeff Bezos is looking to salvage what's left. Wow, so disruptive, by the way. So sad that he's trying to be real journalism, bring real journalism back into the fold. So triggering to the left that it's considered disruptive. Just to be fair, that's proof. That's daylight on just how far they've fallen. The bid to rescue legacy media is on, but is it too late? All right, folks, this is where we bring you up to speed on everything that happened since last night, since yesterday. That pre-election media meltdown, wow, did you see this happening in full effect? Occasionally, the airheads over at CNN take a break from their Trump-related episodes or their blind praise for Kamala Harris, and they open the roundtable up for a discussion. Now, so this is a show, Abby Phillip, I believe is her name. She started the show after October 7th, a year ago, after the bombing of Israel, and it didn't do anything. It was going nowhere. At some point over the summer, they decided to bring in consenting or opposite voices, not consenting, opposite voices. Kind of like, I don't know, fair and balanced a little bit. They brought in righties also on CNN, and it started to blow up. Some things were said. People were getting mad. It started to get attention. Well, look how it exploded yesterday.
If you don't want to be called Nazis, stop doing it.
You're called an anti-Semite. You've been called an anti-Semite more than anyone else's table.
Yeah.
And people will sit there and... No, by me. I never called you an anti-Semite. Okay. I mean, I'm not sitting here saying
I'm a supporter of the Palestinians, so I'm used to it.
Yeah, I hope your beeper doesn't go off. The thing is that...
Did you just say I should die?
You should not...
No,
did you just say I should be killed?
No, I did not say that. No, I did not say that.
Hold on.
Did your guest just say I should be killed?
On live
TV.
So this goes on. It goes back and forth. So the conservative guy right there says, in a heated argument with Mehdi Hassan, who's very, very much supportive of the Palestinians, even in the light of what happened in Gaza and what happened in Israel on October 7th, he's supported them straight through. He says, I hope your beeper doesn't go off. As okay, so it's radical. It approaches the line, but you have to take it in context, because if you watch the rest of that segment, the earlier part of the segment, they were ripping conservatives. They were ripping Trump. They were ripping conservatives. They're Nazis. Conservatives are Hitler. There's all these references to Hitler and Nazis for conservatives. But this guy says something about a beeper. Let me get it straight. You guys can call us Nazis until you're blue in the face, but God forbid a guy like that responds and you go crazy. That was Ryan Jerdusky, by the way, a conservative who was handed a nice ban from CNN immediately after he said that. They came back and they said, you know what? We're banning that guy for life. They're life for life. He's banned from CNN. Hitler. You used to invoke Hitler and you get thrown off television. Yeah, I was at Fox for 12 years. You couldn't even mention Hitler. You mention it, you get called to the office and say, don't ever do it again. These guys are throwing Hitler and Nazis around like it's water. This guy says, hope your beeper doesn't go off, as a reference to the beepers that went off and killed Hamas fighters, murderers, terrorists, rapists, horrible human beings. So he says that, and this guy gets banned for life. I don't know. Let's move on to the next one. From CNN to MSNBC, the radical Dems are just infatuated with that Nazi rhetoric. Rachel Maddow, after playing a soundbite from the 1939 rally at MSG gave us this little ditty.
You know, if you don't want to be compared to those people in history, don't steal their lines. Don't say you admire them. You know, if you don't want to be called a fascist, don't convert a normal governing political party into a one-man cult of personality and then say all elections are rigged and the country used to be great, but now it's been humiliated. If you don't want to be compared to the folks who held rallies like that in 1939, don't hold rallies like that. If you don't want to be called a fascist, stop constantly acting out the dictionary definition of fascist. And then we'll all agree we won't use that F word anymore.
There you have it. We're fascists because we hate what the Democrats have done to the country. This tells you everything you need to know about the state of our nation. If you dare disagreeing with the ruling class, Rachel Maddow is going to compare you to Hitler. Well, why exactly? I don't know why. I guess that's just life in America in 2024. Unlike Rachel Maddow, though, I like to think I have a little bit more common sense. Sometimes what we see should tell us way more than what we're listening to. So, yes, while I think polling can be important, I see something absolutely different. Nothing to worry about when it comes to Kamala Harris and her disoriented campaign. Take a look. That's Dr. Air quotes around Dr. Jill Biden rallying for Kamala and Tampon Tim in Michigan. Was it maybe 30, 35, 40 people? Of course, maybe less, I don't know. But for the Democrats, look what happened when Kamala was excited by the cheers of a slightly larger audience. Listen.
Okay, now I want each of you to shout your own name. Do that. Because it's about all of us. It's about all of us. And listen, I have fought my whole career to put the people first.
What an idiot. She has absolutely no idea what she's doing up there. She's got the crowd going. Kamala, Kamala, Kamala. Is it racist, by the way, they said Kamala? Are they supposed to say Kamala, not Kamala? Anyway, so they're saying Kamala. She's now say your own thing? And they all look around like, wait, what? She tell us to do? Way to shut down, quickly shut the place down, Kamala. Way to go. It was like someone flipped a switch. She had that deranged crowd of purple-haired lunatics all riled up, and with one moronic sentence, she absolutely stunned them with her stupidity. Incredible. They're going to vote for her anyway. I know Kamala is low-hanging fruit. I don't know, low-hanging coconut, should I say, but she's running for president, not to mention the more America sees of her, the worse she does in the polls. So here she is pretending, I don't have any clue about what's going on at a semiconductor plant.
Here is actually a harvested U-rod where we actually do grow it. So this is what it looks like when it comes out of our process of that. Do not touch it.
Do not.
Yes.
I'm glad I am.
So please do not touch any of the
And I will touch
very
that.
sharp. Very
Yes.
sharp. Yeah,
Okay.
very sharp.
Okay,
so,
and shiny.
that being said,
So even at her scripted photo op, she has to be watched like a little child. There really isn't much going on upstairs with that woman. I'll leave you with this from my friend, our friend, Tucker Carlson, who told the New York Times to quite literally fuck off. There it is right there. The New York Times reached out to Tucker, asking him to basically participate in a hit piece against himself and other journalists who dared to disagree with the Democratic talking points about the upcoming election. They literally sent him talking points about Republican, quote, misinformation and things that Tucker had posted that they deemed inaccurate. By the way, they were using Media Matters as their source. Media Matters is a wildly left-leaning think tank. Typical Tucker fashion, he told them to fuck off, literally. Look at it, right there, at the bottom. Keep that up for a second. I hope you're, so the New York Times, here, I'll read this for Tucker. So the New York Times is working with the left-wing hate group to silence critics of the Democratic Party. Please ask yourself why you're participating in it. This is why you got into journalism. This is why you got into journalism. It's shameful. I hope you're filled with guilt and self-loathing for sending me a text like this. Please quote me. He tells them, thank you for a prompt response. Would you like to address any of the points or questions they say back? And then he comes back with this great response. Would I like to participate in your attempt to censor me? No, thanks. But I do hope you'll quote me what I wrote above, and also note that I told you to fuck off, which I am doing right now. Thank you. Well paid, Tucker. Well played. All right, folks, we're getting close to the election. The left is losing their collective mind, and they keep going back to fascist threat to democracy, Trump is, and they keep using this January 6th. Remember, AOC the other day said, all Trump's rallies are mini January 6th. Remember that one? Well, listen to what AOC just told Dana Bash about that day on January 6th. This is unbelievable, folks.
I didn't think that I was just going to be killed. I thought other things were going to happen to me as well.
So what sounds like what you're telling me right now is that you didn't only think that you were going to die, you thought you were going to be raped.
Yeah. I thought I was.
Okay, so this is Truth Bomb. So let's keep it real. Let's keep it all truthful, AOC. Let's put up that screen and show you exactly where AOC was. There's the building. That's the Capitol building on top. Rioters breached the building from the backside, which kind of faces the Washington Monument. That side, the front side is anyway. So there's about a quarter of a mile away. It's quite a big walk away. And AOC was in the Cannon House office building. Her office is in Cannon. There's a couple of House and Senate office buildings, or old buildings. It's about a quarter mile away, very far away. There's no way any of the people who are protesting at the Capitol or anywhere near Cannon. There's never ever been indication anywhere near Cannon. So AOC tells Dana Bash that she was quite literally fearful of her life, Dana Bash and more, and then Dana Bash says, and you thought you were going to be raped. She thought she was going to be raped in Cannon? What the hell's wrong with you, AOC? You just filthy liar? Is that what it is? You just want to lie? Do you hate Trump that much that you sell your soul to lie and say you were at risk? You were never at risk, my dear. Never at risk. Maybe you wanted to be at risk, but you weren't. So don't do that. It's not fair to the people who are actually at risk. Truth bomb, folks. And finally, Halloween just a couple days away, right? Thursday night, the Washington Post has decided, that WashPost, to get creative with their insults for once. Their girl, Kamala Harris, has imploded. Her campaign has gotten too spooky to cover, even for this time of year. So they've pivoted back to insulting Trump, this time with a cartoon. Make your own Trumpkin. Make your own Trumpkin labeled an opinion piece for some bizarre reason. The artist, who I'll just get to in just a second, shows the 4 steps needed to make your very own Trumpkin, Trump pumpkin. Scooping out the brains, ha ha ha, yuck, yuck, yuck. Carving the face, yuck, yuck, yuck. Adding some hair, lighting the candle, and leaving it to wither with age. Washington Post, once again. Leftist media. Maybe they'll get rid of Bezos. Get rid of that one, too. Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't this almost exactly what the Democrats did to Joe Biden in the Oval Office? Let's get back to the artist now. Edith Pritchett, a textbook lib with a degree in fine arts. I bet anything that Edith's arts and crafts degree cost 6 figures to get, and I don't know. It has nothing to do with that mean old Edith whines about Trump and draws her angry cartoons from her parents' basement. I bet you and I are paying off her student debt thanks to Joe Biden going around the Supreme Court. All right, folks, that's it for us today. Getting close, getting really close. Don't forget, you see the show, you like it, share it, tell your friends, but please subscribe. Makes it easier for us, makes it easier for you to find it, helps us out as well. We don't charge, obviously it's not charged, but we don't use it to hit you up with email or anything. Just subscribe. And you can always call us, 888-601-0032, 888-601-0032. Give me a call. Tell me what you like, what you don't like, what's on your mind, and we'll get some more of those. Maybe we'll get a couple more of those in tomorrow. That's it for Bolling. Bolling out today. See you tomorrow. Bolling out.